Okay, so we'll get on to 27 and 28. Okay. Anybody remembers what we discussed the last time? What was the topic that we brought forth? Slides. Anything?
So we talked about equal vision, Samadarshana, in verses 18. And also we should follow pure devotees, that they're the ones who have equal vision.
Yes.
And
equal vision was equal vision was the point of discussion. Yes. So verse 20 to 29, all of them they're more like describing the qualities. Right? They're descriptive verses from 20 to 29. So it talked about duality and sakta, and there were 4 progressive stages that we talked about in verse number 21. Shaknoti Deva Yashodham Praksharina Vimokshana Kama 21. Bhaya Sparsha Saktatma Vindati Atmaniyat Sabrahma Yoga Yukta Sukham Aksham Ashnate. So there are 4 stages that we discussed, detached from external stimuli and seeking happiness within, and then concentrating on the supreme, and then relish the impersonal. So there were 4 levels that we discussed here. Okay, so moving forward, 27 to 28. So now this verses 27 to 28, you'll see these are more on the level of Ashtanga Yoga. And the reason Krishna is bringing this up here, because he's going to talk about more details of Ashtanga Yoga in the next chapter, which is 6th chapter. So Krishna is giving a glimpse of the Dhyana Yoga in these verses. Okay. So where's my slides? So these are the different levels of Ashtanga Yoga. Okay. So there are 8 levels of Ashtanga Yoga, starting right from Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Dhyan, Dharan, Pratyahara, and Samadhi. And this is given in the 3rd canto also of Srimad Bhagavatam. Kapila Muni explains the Sankhya Yoga, and he explains this Ashtanga Yoga also. And so I picked up these from the 3rd canto. 3rd canto, 26th or 28th chapter, I think. 28th chapter. So Yama, Niyama. So Yama are more of external. Let me just open up that verse. Give me 1 second. Pull that verse. That will be better for us. Yes. Okay, so this is the verse coming from the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 28th chapter. So the verse is the what I was putting in this here, which is a Yama. So the Yama section is being described here, that you should practice non-violence, truthfulness, avoid thieving, and be satisfied with possessing, abstain from self-like. So all that is Yama and Niyama. So Ahimsa, Satyam, Aparigraha, and Brahmacharyam, avoiding sex life. So these are more external things. And internal is Niyama. Okay, what you observe. So it's Tapa. So Tapa, Shaucham, Swadhyay, Purusharchanam. So Purusharchana means worship of the Supreme Personality of God. So in the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, you all must have heard of that. My voice is echoing for some reason. Is everybody? Let me see if everybody's muted. Thank you, Prabhu. I just muted you. My voice was echoing. Okay. So yeah. So in the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, he also describes these eight stages of yoga. We all must be aware of that Yoga of Patanjali. So the many people they think that Patanjali was impersonalist, okay? And but then Patanjali Yoga, he also talks about connecting with God. I put this phrase there. It says Tapa Swadhyay Ishvara Pranidhanani Kriya Yoga. So this talks about tapa, austerity. Swadhyay means reading, gaining knowledge, and Ishvara Pranidhan, which is similar to Purusharchanam that we are seeing in this verse right here. So which means Purusharchanam means worship of the Supreme Personality of God. So even Patanjali Yoga talks of eventually connecting with Krishna. Okay. So, and even Krishna, and I mentioned that in third canto, yes, and even towards the end of Bhagavatam, 11th canto, Krishna also speaks about this yoga form to Uddhava. Okay, so tapa, austerity, study, swadhyay, and religious meditation upon the Supreme Lord, Ishvara Pranidhana. So they are essential for liberation of a living being, right? But by practicing this Ashtanga Yoga, Ashtanga means 8 limbs. Okay, so there are 8 limbs to yoga, which are here. Yama, Niyama, all that stuff. Ashtanga Yoga is a much long process for attaining to Krishna. Okay. You can either follow that path of that 8-step yoga and then connect with Krishna, or you could do it effortlessly as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us. There is no avoiding it. There's no avoiding connecting with Krishna. So the Ishvara Pranidhan is the most important aspect of yoga forms, connecting with Krishna. If any yoga form which does not eventually lead us to Krishna is a bogus yoga. It's not yoga that, it cannot be even called yoga. Okay? So that has to be done. There are people, unfortunately, that's what's happening in today's world. People, they talk of Hatha yoga, right? There are so many yoga studios here. You go out in America, but their yoga form is just on a physical level because they are not eventually connecting with Krishna. There is no Ishvara Pranidhan in their process. Okay, so that is the challenge here that people face. So people have just been very, they have narrowed it out. That okay, we will do only this Hatha yoga kind of physical poses. So if you see in this picture right here, this is the asana forms. This is what is prevalent in United States right now. And you can say pranayam a bit. I don't think a lot of pranayam being done, a lot of but asanas are a lot of being done. So people are doing asana different poses, but they're not doing the other steps, which is, and eventually the goal of all this yoga, of Ashtanga yoga, is to connect with Krishna. And they are not doing that. Okay. So, and I'll put this quote from one of Prabhupada's purports, in the last verse of the next chapter. So when Jnana Yoga increases in meditation on the super soul by different physical processes, and the mind is on him, it is called Ashtanga Yoga. And when one surpasses the Ashtanga Yoga and comes to the point of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, it is called Bhakti Yoga, the culmination. So eventually the goal is Krishna. But if you skip that, then it's nothing but a physical, some exercise. This yoga is of no use otherwise. So people who practice yoga, this Ashtanga Yoga, but they don't, who avoid religious meditation or meditating upon the Supreme Lord, or they substitute that with something else, all that is useless. Okay. Ultimately, you have to connect with the Supreme Lord, either directly or indirectly. Sometimes it's indirectly also, right? For example, we have a disciplic succession. So we are connecting through our guru, through our teachers with Krishna. Okay. So so that's also a more direct process. But then some people, they connect with the spiritual teacher, but they still don't have that concept of God. Okay. So out of sukriti or piety, they're able to connect with the spiritual teacher, but then they don't still realize that they are eventually connected to Krishna. So those people are also, they have an effective connection with Krishna. So, but then there has to be connection. Otherwise, the whole process of yoga is useless. Okay. So, let me see. I think I had another slide here. This. Okay. So now just I wanted to give this again, quite a review here of all the yoga ladder, what it is about. So the reason being that because eventually in this yoga ladder, there is Ashtanga yoga also fits in right here in this process. So Bhagavad Gita caters to all levels of yoga. Okay. The word yoga means to link, okay, linking our consciousness with the supreme absolute truth. Okay. There are different types of yoga systems, right? According differently. Fruitive activities, karma yoga, we have here. So there is karma, then karma kanda, then there's jnana yoga, bhakti yoga. So this material world is meant for the purification of us conditioned souls. Okay. And by that, by yoga, what we are doing, with different kinds of yoga, we as a conditioned soul, we reawaken our spiritual consciousness, which I have forgotten. Okay. So the yoga ladder is the Supreme Lord's system for facilitating our purification at whichever level we may be in our life. That's the beauty of this culture that Bhagavad Gita gives us. There are many religions that just prosper that only you can come to God. Only if you believe this person as a messenger of God will you come to God. Otherwise, you cannot. Bhagavad Gita doesn't at all propagate that. Bhagavad Gita says wherever you are in your life, you can still move forward and attain your true nature. You can understand what your true self is, wherever you are in this land. Okay, and beginning all the way with the bottom, which is right here, karma. So this is an animalistic path, right? And then karma kanda. You've read about karma kanda, right? So karma kanda, there is no spiritual objective, right? There are just rules, regulations. There is some rule regulation here and there, and but still there is a lot of desires. It's full of desires. Then moving forward, then we come to Sakam Karma Yoga. There is spiritual objective. Some spiritual desires come into picture, but there are still material desires also. Then we come to Nishkam Karma Yoga. There is spiritual objective, just pure spiritual objective. Nishkam, there is no desire in it, right? So, but the person is still fixed to the work. And then comes Jnana Yoga. So Jnana Yoga means giving up all social obligations in pursuit of spiritual advancement. Okay. Then comes to Ashtanga Yoga. So the Dhyana Yoga is the Ashtanga Yoga part. Okay. That's where the one that we are discussing today fits into the picture. So this yoga system, the Ashtanga Yoga system, as I said, 8 limbs. And when we read the next chapter, you will see that it's divided into 2 parts, Yoga Rurukshu and Yoga Rudha. So Yoga Rurukshu is the beginning stage. The Yoga Rudha is the later stage. So the first 2, Yama Niyama, prohibitions and regulations, as we talked about. Then once we have learned to practice these regulations, then we start practicing asanas, sitting postures, all that. And that's what people commonly call Hatha Yoga. While we are practicing those asanas, then we can also do pranayam, breathing exercises. So because the breath is ultimately connected with the mind. So therefore pranayam helps us control the mind. Okay? And then when this mind is controlled, the yogi, the aspiring yogi, advances to the practice of pratyahara, withdrawing his senses. Pratyahara. Pratyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha jansangha chalalyamcha sadbir bhaktir. No. Pratyahara, that was Pratyahara. So Pratyahara is withdrawing Atyahara is too much external. Okay, that was we are told in the nectar of instruction. Second verse. Atyahara priyasascha prajalponyamagra. Atyahara was too much, taking too much, more than is needed. So Pratyahara is opposite of that, withdrawing. So when that person becomes Pratyahara, he's detached himself. So he first practices dharana, dhyana, and then it finally reaches to the final stage of samadhi. Okay. So dharana and dhyana is nothing but difference in intensity. There are different intensities of meditation. Okay, but the final one is called samadhi. So different transcendentalists, they attain different kinds of samadhi. The Gyanis, they focus on the Brahman. The Patanjali Yoga, which is Dhyana Yoga, they focus on the Paramatma, the localized aspect of the Supreme in the heart. And the Bhakti Yoga focuses on Bhagavan, Krishna. Okay. So Sachidananda Bhagavan, right? So, and finally we come to Bhakti Yoga. That's the ultimate step of the whole process. So this is where the Ashtanga Yoga fits into the picture. Okay. So right here is Ashtanga Yoga, which are being talked about here. And what Krishna is doing here, he's giving us an explanation of some parts of that, just as a preview to what he's going to discuss in the next step. So it's more like asking a question to Arjuna. Hey, do you want to know of another yoga method where, whereby some physical exercises you can also, attain liberation? So it's more like asking Arjuna that, oh, I'm going to tell you about more. That's what Krishna does here. Eventually, that he'll go through this path of Ashtanga Yoga. So now understanding. So now what is the, if we try to see that, okay, relationship between the Ashtanga Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, right? So I'll give you some, going back to some of the basics that we've already discussed in the past. There are two phases of spiritual growth. We talked about dutiful, detached, and devotional. Okay. So dutiful, and then we are asked to detach from matter, and then we are asked to attach to the spirit. So being dutiful is just a precursor to, our spiritual aspect. So when we are able to detach ourselves from matter, then we are in a spiritual, then our spiritual growth begins. So detachment of matter and then attachment of spirit. There are two kind of broad phases of the spiritual growth. Ashtanga Yoga focuses on especially the detachment part. That how do you detach yourself from matter? Okay, especially the first 5 steps, they teach about detachment of matter. Okay? And the next 3 levels, they talk about attachment to the spirit. So now somebody can ask this question to you, that you're saying that this Ashtanga Yoga, which Patanjali Muni has given us, is also about Bhagavan. Okay? It has eventually. Then I quoted the phrase Ishvara Pranidhan. Okay, so why doesn't he tell who is Ishvara then? If it's about Ishvara, it's about Krishna, why doesn't he tell about Ishvara? So if you realize that people who don't want to follow the path of bhakti, they will go through scriptures and they will find reasoning that can strengthen their own view of being against bhakti. And Krishna does that. If you want to go away from Krishna, he will give you the knowledge to go away from Krishna. And if you want to come to him, he'll give you that, right? Sarvasya chaham hriday sanivishto matah smriti jnanam apohanam. Krishna says in the 15th chapter, verse number 15, that I'm sitting in everybody's heart. Sarvasya chaham hriday sanivishto mata smriti jnanam apohanam. So I give smriti, memory, jnanam, knowledge, apohanam, forgetfulness. So whatever I want from Krishna, he will give me. So there are people who will question that, oh, you are wrong. Ashtanga yoga is not about Krishna. It's a different form of yoga. Because he talks of Ishvara Pranidhan, but he doesn't tell us what is Ishvara Pranidhan. What is this? Who's the Ishvara that he's being talked to? Who's talking about him? He doesn't tell us that. So for that, we have to understand that when Patanjali Yoga was being spoken, when he was writing these books, it was already established. The knowledge of Ishwar was already established, and it didn't need explanation at that time. So as I mentioned, it talks about Ishvara Pranidhan, but doesn't talk about Ishwar and how to absorb in it. So the purpose that the reason, as I'm saying, is that because at that time when he was speaking this, when he was writing this, everybody knew who Krishna was. So the culture of bhakti was established in the society. He didn't have to tell who Ishvara is. Right? If, let's say, we talk about, let's say, Eiffel Tower, for example. If you tell somebody Eiffel Tower, just if you ask somebody, have you been to Eiffel Tower? You don't necessarily tell them, Eiffel Tower is in this country, this town, this a metal structure. You don't give the details because it's a common knowledge what Eiffel Tower is. Similarly, because Ishvara was a very common knowledge at the time of Patanjali Yoga, Patanjali Muni's, when he was around, therefore he does not give a detail of Ishvara. Okay. So that's the reason. Okay. So that's the reason why he doesn't talk about Krishna in this yoga form, and the relationship in Ashtanga Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, I did mention to you that already. Right? So, this part talking about both the connection and detachment from matter and connection to the spirit. So these all are being discussed here. Then let's look at the verse quickly. We'll then move forward. Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eye and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostril, and thus controlling the mind, senses, intelligence, the transcendentalist aiming at liberation becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. So this corresponds to this dhyana stage. What we have just talked, what Krishna is talking about is the dhyana stage. Right? So it's talking about withdrawing your senses, right? Shutting out all six external sense objects, vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, right? There's the chakra system, if you know, then right here is the Agya, it's called Agya chakra. So if that chakra is here, and it's supposedly a window to our spiritual self, and that's being talked about here. That's what Krishna is talking about here in this verse. And as I said, it's a precursor to what he will talk about in the next verses, in the next chapter. A lot of things being talked about: movement of air, suspending air, controlling mind, intelligence, so on and so forth. So this will be given in more detail in the next chapter. Okay, so these are this 27, 28. Okay. In the 6th chapter, Prabhupada now is giving, and Prabhupada at the end of the 5th chapter is only preliminary explained what will be given in the 6th chapter. And this is a very important principle that we can adopt in our day-to-day practice of chanting. Prabhupada is telling us that don't close your eyes completely and don't open them completely. You keep them half open. So Prabhupada is saying there's no benefit in closing because there is every chance of falling asleep, nor is there benefit in opening the eyes completely because then there is the hazard of being attracted by the sense object. So you keep them partially open. But then Prabhupada, as usual, he gives the essence right here. In the end, he just says that it's much better. Krishna conscious person is always engaged in devotional service, does not risk losing his senses to some other engagement. That is why Prabhupada gave us devotional service. So that when we engage in ourselves in service, automatically all of these other steps, yama, niyama, everything is already in there, in the yoga, in the bhakti yoga practices that Prabhupada has given us. Right, so we saw this part, right? So a person who's practicing bhakti yoga has already come through all these paths. Karma, karmakand, sakam, nishkam, jnana, dhyana. He's already come to. That is why Mother Devahuti says this to Kapila Muni, her son. She says a very famous word, third canto, 33rd chapter, it comes in. Aho bata sau pacha to garyan yad jivagre vartate nama tubhyam. Tepus tapast jivu sashnur arya brahmanuchur te nama grananti yete. That somebody who is chanting your name has already come, he's done all what has to be done according to the Vedic scriptures. He's done all the ritualistic sacrifices, he's done all the knowledge accumulation, he's done all the meditation that is needed. Then he has come to Bhakti Yoga. Okay? That is why Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami told us right in the beginning that don't judge people on their external appearance. Right? Don't look at vapu, the bodily doshas, bodily defects in people. People can be very, bodily from top, it might seem to you that person might be the lowest in the whole creation. But down deep, he might be a pure devotee. So anybody who is chanting the name of Krishna is automatically a pure devotee. He's a pure soul. So that's what Mother Devahuti tells to Kapila Muni. And that's what we are seeing here is that Bhakti Yoga contains all these other paths automatically. And that is why Bhakti Yoga is the topmost step. There's a story that comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi was a very rich businessman. And one day, Gadadhar Pandit went to meet him. When Gadadhar Pandit went to his house, one of the other devotees took Gadadhar Pandit the other devotee said, let me introduce you to a pure devotee. So he takes Gadadhar Pandit to Pundarik Vidyanidhi's house. There, Gadadhar Pandit is really astonished. He sees Pundarik Vidyanidhi sitting on a very good ornate bed, silk bed sheets, beautiful pillows, and he's got two servants, fanning him, and he himself is dressed in these exquisite clothes, wearing a lot of jewelry, eating pan, chewing betel nut, having this perfumed oil in his hair, and so he seems to be the most of the materialistic. He seems to be a very, very materialistic person. Okay? And Gadadhar Pandit was immediately astonished. Like, are you telling me this guy is a pure devotee? He was like questioning that person's authenticity as a pure devotee. And the other devotee who brought Gadadhar Pandit, there he could understand what Gadadhar Pandit was thinking. So that devotee, he starts singing a verse from Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, that which verse was this? I'm trying to remember. Okay, I can't remember. It's a verse where Krishna is glorified because he even gave the position of Putana, who came to kill him, as his mother. So why would somebody else pray to anybody else other than Krishna? That's the verse that person quotes. It comes in Bhagavatam. So when this verse, Pundarik Vidyanidhi hears this verse, he just goes mad. He goes mad. He goes into a state of ecstasy. He breaks down his whole, he tears apart his bed and whatever exquisite things were on display in his room, costly things. He breaks everything. So then Gadadhar realizes that this person is actually a pure devotee. Yeah. So coming to the point that a person who's a pure devotee, he's not necessarily, might not be externally, might not look like, but internally he has passed through all these parts of the yoga ladder, and eventually then he has come to bhakti. He or she has come to bhakti. So, but then as I said, Bhakti Yoga Bhagavad Gita caters to all yoga forms. That is why Krishna is going to talk about this Dhyana Yoga also in the next chapter. Okay. Let me see if anything else that I had in mind. Okay, we talked about the yoga ladder. We talked about the Pranidhan. Okay, relationship between Ashtanga Yoga and Bhakti Yoga also that we discussed. Anything that you want to, you have anything on your mind before we move on further, the last verse?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, if you get to a certain point in this lifetime on the yoga ladder, whatever you accomplish won't be lost. So if I guess if you don't go back to Godhead in this birth, you take birth again. Do you have to go through that entire process all over again, or do you start where you left off?
You start where you left off, Prabhu. There is no loss or diminution. We read that verse in the second chapter. Let's look at that once quickly. 2.42. 2.42. See. Oh, this is Nehabi Karmo Nastasti. Yes, this is the verse. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement of this path can protect one from the dangerous types of fear. And then I'll give you a precursor that comes in the 6th chapter also. It comes towards the end of the 6th chapter, where we are told that Arjuna asked similar question. So what happens to somebody who starts this practice, but he loses it, but he can't complete it in this life? So that Krishna answers that let me come to that verse. Yes, here it is, this section. Sorry, I went ahead. So Arjuna asks a similar question. He says, where's that? Arjuna's question. That, okay. 38th verse he's asking. One who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away both from spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere. So he's asking the same thing that, okay, if I'm not able to complete, I'm not able to reach the end goal of this path of transcendence, do I lose everything? And Krishna tells him that no, you don't lose anything. He says, a person engaged in auspicious does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. The person, he begins from wherever he or she is left. Let's say you complete 50%, you start from 51 in the next life. And what happens? Krishna will give this two paths. What happens to those people? If I've been an unsuccessful yogi, I'll go up in the heavenly planets, enjoy, and then I'll come back to this material world, this earthly planets, and I'll be born in a righteous family or in a very rich family, where it's very easy for me to practice bhakti. Now, whether I do it or not is a different thing, but I will be given all the conditions. Or I will take birth in a family of transcendentalists. So all the kids that are born in the Krishna consciousness movement, they all are very, very special. Because Krishna himself is saying, such a birth is very rare in this world. They have been practicing in their last life, but they didn't complete the path. So now they have been born into a family of transcendentalists or practicing devotees. And they're going to continue from wherever they are. Yes, Prabhu. So I think I did answer your question.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Any more thoughts before we move on? It's just
Hare
that.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Surendra Prabhu. Sorry, yes, you had your hand raised.
No, sorry, Prabhuji. Go ahead, please.
No, please tell me. Tell me.
All right. Yeah, Prabhuji, I was just looking the yoga ladder. So like,
Yes.
Bhakti yoga, I think when we map our 9 stages, like, our ISKCON 9 stages and the 9 process of the Bhakti yoga, right? Is it like a same, like, because we do the same thing like Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, and all. Is it like a same thing which similar, like, we try to map like Gyan, like in the yoga ladder, is like a similar stages, or it's a altogether the different path, which is
So
referred in the
9
ISKCON.
stages that you have that we're talking about, those are a part of Bhakti yoga.
Right.
Those are subsections of Bhakti yoga.
Okay.
Whereas what we just read, or what we're talking about, the ladder,
Right.
that's,
In the yoga ladder, like, when we go Gyan Yoga and all those ladders, various ladder, is it not the same like 9 stages of Bhakti Yoga, or those are the separate ladder?
it's a
It's a
separate ladder, bro.
separate path. Okay.
It's a separate path completely. And let
I
me
see.
quickly revisit that. It'll be good for all of us to look at it. Right, this is what we talked about when we started the nectar of instruction, right? So, Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, Anartha Nivriti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Sakti,
Right.
Bhava, Prema. All this is a part of Bhakti Yoga. So there's one tab of Bhakti Yoga on that ladder, right? It's all part of
Right.
Bhakti Yoga. Whereas
Okay.
the yoga ladder by itself includes all the other paths also. Jnana, knowledge, meditation, doing karma, fruitive activities, being animalistic, no concept of God or anything, just enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. All that is in yoga ladder. So yoga ladder encompasses everybody in this world.
Got it.
Whereas what we see here on this page is only the people who are practicing Bhakti Yoga. This is the stages they go through.
Okay. Got it. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Any more thoughts before we move on?
I had a question about you mentioning, right, the kids who are born in the Vaishnav devotee family, they have done a lot of sukriti in their previous birth.
Mhm.
So Prabhuji, but it's not like if you have done sukriti, like you had 20% in your previous birth, and in this birth you start from 21%, and then you start doing japa and everything. But it's not like, but then still we see, right, kids, they start off and then they get distracted, and means.
Mhm.
So what is the reasoning behind it? I mean, that sukriti should keep growing, right? I know it's a free will and all that, but is
Mhm.
it not like the very reason you got this birth and the association of devotees and the Vaishnavas, so that you continue growing in that and you don't get distracted and get involved in sense gratification and all. So what's the reasoning behind it? Means Krishna wants us to come back, right? So that is why, because of my good sukriti, I came to this birth. Again, I'm associated. But then why do I get distracted? Why does this Maya covers you up again? From 21%, I just stay in 21%. That means that's something bewilders me at times.
So is your question that why do people who had done bhakti in their last life, why are they not able to carry
Continue
it?
with that, yeah, and grow with that, and eventually from 21% they become 50%. Why do they either they are stagnant on 21%? I'm just hypothetically giving some percent. Means we have seen cases where people fall down, right? And they were born in a very great Vaishnava family, and they had good association, they had all the bhakti ladders to follow, everything was there, but still they get so covered up even after having great sukriti. So what's the reasoning behind that, Prabhu?
Well, the reasoning is that Maya is very strong. Maya won't let you go even unless you see Krishna face to face. There is a full probability of us falling back down into this material.
Like Bharat Maharaj.
Yes, nothing is guaranteed.
Mhm.
That is why all the scriptures tell us, labdha sudurlabham idam bahu sambhavante. That this body is sudurlabham. It's very, very rare and hard. It's very hard to attain this body. So don't misuse this body. Just like in the example of Bharat Maharaj you gave. What was it? Can you imagine somebody? He was already at a level of, we just saw the 9 stages of
Mhm.
in our bhakti yoga, right? We were looking at that. So he was already at the stage of bhava, which is the 8th stage. The next is prema, which is pure love for Krishna. He was already at bhava stage of bhakti. But he one whiff of Maya came and he fell down. Just imagine he was young, I have read in scripture that he was in his 20s or something, 30s at the most. A young guy having a perfect family, a wife, kids, ruling the whole kingdom. He gives up everything, but he falls prey to one, baby deer. He looks at, oh, Kuchik, what a beautiful deer, or what's going to happen to the deer. So Maya is very strong. That is why, as we have talked here, What are the 3 S that we need? Strict, serious, and sincere. It's very important. If we are not strict in our bhakti process, we'll easily fall off the path. That is what happens. So Krishna is giving us all whatever is needed for us to progress in bhakti. But even if I don't pick it up, even after then, Krishna cannot do anything about it. Right? You see, people are born rich. So many people are born rich, but how many of them take up to bhakti? Rarely anybody, right? We have a few examples in our movement. His Holiness Giriraj Goswami Maharaj, his father was very rich. Giriraj Maharaj, his father was very rich. He was a lawyer, attorney, or something like that. We know that there are other senior devotees. They were well educated. Gopal Krishna Maharaj was highly educated, and others. So all of them had all the conducive environment for them to grow in bhakti. And when the right time came, they took it up. But not everybody can take it up. So it's all coming back to our free will. It comes down to that. I have a choice that I can do, right? So free will is, the more spiritual we become, the more freedom we have to choose responsibly. Because a time comes when our free will is maximized due to our connection with God, which frees us from dependence on circumstances. Okay. When we are dependent on circumstances, our options to choose are limited. Right. So as long as we and that's why, right? So when Bharat Maharaj fell off in his first life, he became a deer in the next. And what did he tell himself? Never again. Never again will I fall prey to my Maya. But still he had to come to a third birth. And at that time, he was so cautious. He said, I don't want anything to do with this world. His father would tell him, that please keep yourself clean. You're a Brahmana. And his Brahman thread would be dirty. And he was doing completely opposite because he didn't want to take any chances anymore. And because his connection with Krishna had maximized, his free will to choose responsibly was also maximized. And he could take the right decisions at the right time. But as I was saying, till the time we see Krishna face to face, there's every chance that we can fall off the track again. So, and if somebody, if you distinguish, destiny is what happens to us is our destiny. How we respond to it is our free will. Despite even the worst conditions, Bharat Maharaj was born as a deer, but that life, he made the best use of it. He would stay in an ashram, wherever he was practicing his yoga practices in his past life. He went and stayed there till he left his body. So yes, destiny can give us anything, good or bad, but how I respond to it is my free will. That's very important. So free will is the main aspect. Free will shape how I respond to events, situations, and destiny determines what events will happen in my life. So by my past birth, past activities, my scenario could be different in this life, but how I choose to respond to that scenario is completely my choice. Did that help, Maji? Like, clear your confusion?
No. It does help. Thank you so much.
Okay, anything else on anyone's mind before we move forward?
I know you did explain the meaning of Yama, Prabhuji. What in the eightfold stages of Ashtanga Yoga? First was Yama, right? And then the second was Niyama. So what did Yama mean?
So Yama, if you see, these are external. Yama is external, okay? And Niyama is internal. Okay, so there are two verses, 27 and 28. So, mostly external, physical controls, right? Ahimsa, don't kill, okay? Speak the truth to others. And what is the meaning of the word Satyam? Asteyam means refraining from theft, no stealing. Aparigraha. Aparigraha means not possessing than what's more necessary. So these are externally focused things. You're trying to detach yourself from the external. Other things are internal. Tapa, you're doing austerities. You're cleaning, keeping yourself clean. Shaucham doesn't necessarily mean externally cleaning. Shaucham also means cleaning up your heart and mind. Swadhyay, reading, and then Purusharchanam, focusing our mind on the Purusha, the Krishna. And Maunam. Maunam is another, silence. Prabhupada explains silence in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He says that silence doesn't mean we don't speak. Silence means we don't speak nonsense. That's what Maunam means. So all these are internal focused. That's the difference between the two.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
You're welcome. Okay. So then, okay. So last verse. We'll finish this off, and then we can go back to this we did. Okay. So the last verse. Let's read the verse. It's a very beautiful verse, and it's called as the peace formula. Okay, so come to the 29th verse. Bhakti-Sastri BG tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim rachyati. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So, as I said, this is the peace formula. Shantim rachyati. So, all people in this world are anxious for peace, right? Everybody's looking for peace. Unfortunately, people, on the other hand, they're stressed out. So why are we stressed out? Because of me individually thinking myself as all the three things, Bhakti-Sastri, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Suhridam. So enjoyer, right? So I feel that I'm the enjoyer of everything I see. Okay? Because of this approach, my desire for peace doesn't get fulfilled. Okay, because I'm looking that everybody is here to serve me on. But when that doesn't happen, I become stressful. Okay? Anything that doesn't come up to my standard, or it was meant for my enjoyment, it gives me stress. Okay, so that's the first thing, enjoyer. Because I think I'm the enjoyer of everything I see, and when that doesn't work out, I get stressed out. Second is Sarva Loka Maheshwara. I'm the proprietor. I think I'm the controller. Right? We try to control so many things. But as we all know from our experience, we cannot control anybody who has intelligence, anybody who has a mind. Either it's a kid or an adult, spouses, children, we're not able to control. But if I think I'm the controller of them, then it becomes a source of stress. Okay. And similarly, we are always looking for some shelter, right? We're looking for a benevolent masters everywhere, right? Because we are Prakriti in nature. We are Prakriti, we're not the Purusha. So we are always looking for some sort of shelter, somewhere or the other. But if that shelter, we never attain that, it becomes a source of stress. So understand that the whole process, how do we come to this point of stress? If you look at in the whole process, right? I turned myself away from Krishna. Okay. I removed Krishna from my heart because I wanted to enjoy myself. I wanted to enjoy as Krishna is enjoying. So now my heart is void of Krishna. So now there's a big hole there. And that hole is of shape of Krishna. Nothing can fill in it. But unfortunately, because there is a hole, now because I thought I'm going to enjoy. So whatever is there in this world outside, I'm trying to enjoy that. Unfortunately, whatever I put into my heart, because it is not of the shape of Krishna, it doesn't fill up that hole. I can fill up my closet with clothes, my bank with money. My name can end in so many degrees, PhD, MD, whatever. There's so many degrees that you can get. I can get a lot of awards, accolades. I can fill up my shelves with gold medals and so on and so forth. But nothing of that pleases me. Why? Because there's a big hole in my heart that is of the shape of Krishna, and it only will be filled up by Krishna. But because I have turned myself away from Krishna and my heart is empty now, I'm trying to put in so many things. And then I'm trying to control things also. And because they're not controlled, I become fearful that things are not under my control. I thought I am the supreme controller. Just like Krishna is enjoying, I will also enjoy the same way. But no, that doesn't happen. And that's what leads to fear in my life. A failure to be the controller leads to fear, and eventually it leads to so much of self-doubt, resentment in my heart. So a place which was supposed to be the place for Krishna is now filled up with nonsense like resentment, self-doubt, envy, jealousy with others. Why is he getting something when I can't get it? All that eventually leads to stress. When we come to Bhakti Yoga, we eventually are trying to clean up those places. First of all, clean up my heart. And then eventually I put Krishna back in my heart, and then I get Shantim Rachyati. There is no other way of getting Shantim Rachyati in this world. People can say so many ways. And the movement that Prabhupada has given us is perfect. We might be a very disorganized organization. We're not highly organized. Okay, but one good thing about us is that we are whole and soul focused on God. That's the beauty of us. So even though there might be so much discrepancy in our society, it might not be perfect, but just because we are focusing on Krishna, everything becomes nullified. All falls into place. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of the movement that Prabhupada has given us. And that's the only way to relieve ourselves from stress. The Shanti Vrachyati concept only comes. Right? That is why Krishna himself is telling us here. Let's go look at this slide. Okay. So what is he saying? Krishna is saying, Bhakti-Ram Yajna Sapasam. So now if you notice, Bhakti-Ram, Bhakta means to enjoy. Okay. Now who wants to enjoy? We talked about the ladder just now, right? So people who are in a karma kanda state or who are karmis and sakam karma yogis also, they want to enjoy. They are bhoktas. So they are Bhakti-Rams. Then comes Yajna Tapasam. Who is doing tapasya? The Jnana yogis are doing tapasya, austerities. Now, Sarva Loka Maheshwara. Maheshwara means proprietor. He's the Maha-Ishwara. He's the controller of everything. Who wants to be the control? Who wants, sometimes who goes to controllers? People who are like demigod worshippers, they go to all these demigods because they think that, oh, these demigods are the controllers. These demigods are the proprietors. They can give me my material benefits. Okay, so they go to them. Then lastly, Krishna says, Suhirdam Sarva Bhutana. Suhirdam. So Suhirdam means somebody who's sitting in your heart also. Suhirdam. So who's looking for the person sitting in your heart? That's a Dhyana Yogi. So in essence, in a nutshell, Krishna in this verse is saying that all the yoga forms that I'm discussing in Bhagavad Gita, eventually I am the one who's going to give you all that. I am the one who eventually endows you with whatever you're looking for. Bhokta, Tapsa, Maheshwara, Suhirdam, whatever you're looking for, I'm the one who's giving. So come to me. So this verse is kind of the first verse where Krishna is establishing himself as the Supreme Personality of God. Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhirdam Sarva Bhutanam Gyatva Mam, me, Gyatva Mam Shanti Prachi. You get Mam means me. That's the most important part. Mam, me, Lord Krishna. Okay. So that's the most important verse here. So this is the first verse where Krishna is establishing himself. Till now, to second, third, fourth, and the entire fifth, we have been talking about various grades of transcendentalists. Karmis, Karmakandis, Jnana Yogis. So Krishna is establishing himself now, the first time in Bhagavad Gita, as the object of attainment of all transcendentalists. So who will attain that peace now? Who understands Krishna as enjoyer, Bhoktaram, proprietor, Maheshwaram, benefactor, Suhirdam Sarva Bhutana. Right? So all the growth has to happen from within. Externals are unsustainable. Externals will keep changing. Right? But we have to grow the bhakti, the peace has to grow from within. Right? We have to accept all the situations, frustrations, whatever are happening in our life. We have to turn to Krishna. Okay. We can spend our entire lives asking the question why. Why did this happen to me? But there is no outcome of it. But whenever we connect it to Krishna, then it becomes perfect, right? So that is why the two important things that Bhagavad Gita tells us, but Prabhupada told us, cooperate, tolerate. Those two important things. So how do you tolerate? There's this principle of ACT, A-C-T. So you adjust, you clarify, and then you transcend. There are three ways to do it. So if you notice the life of Pandavas, when Pandavas were young, Bhima was poisoned by Duryodhana and his brothers. Pandavas didn't do anything, just tolerated it. Okay? When their wife was humiliated, they took a noble step. They wanted to clarify it. They went to Duryodhana. Krishna as a messenger went to Duryodhana, said, just give them 5 small villages. So they were trying their best to clarify. So it was also a step in toleration. Okay. But then eventually they fought a war. That was also in one sense clarifying, putting down their foot and saying, no, this is right, this is what should be done. And then lastly, when they came to know, when the Pandavas came to know that Krishna has left the planet, they just left everything and went to the mountains. Okay. So toleration can be at different levels. Okay. So everybody has faults. So we should tolerate. Right? It's hard. I know it's very hard. But toleration is what will eventually lead me to this level of peace that I'm looking for. Because I have to bring that peace from within. If I keep getting distracted and disturbed by what's happening outside, that peace will never come. Right? So tolerance is a very important factor in getting that Shanti Vrichyati in spiritual life. Okay. Of course, tolerance also needs some vigilance. We can't overlook and ignore every questionable action others are doing. If we see somebody acting improperly again and again, then we have to take some action against it. So tolerance has to be balanced with vigilance all the time. Broadly, tolerance just means to keep small things small so that we can focus on the big ticket items. But if tolerance is obstructing our way in doing big things, it becomes counterproductive. Right? So tolerance is very important for us. Okay, so this verse, yes, so this is in essence how to understand Krishna's different levels, enjoyer, proprietor, and the Suhita, benefactor. And it has to come from within. Avashya Rakshibe Krishna Vishwasha Palana. When I know that Krishna is protecting me the whole time, then I can be peaceful. Just like a child is peaceful, knowing that his parents are protecting him the whole time. So when we connect with Krishna, we're actually, in one sense, we all are actually fighting with Krishna. Okay? We all are anti-Krishna in this movement. At least I am. I want to enjoy separately from him. We are waging a war against him, subconsciously. We are trying to usurp his position as the supreme controller, enjoyer, benefactor. Right? Unfortunately or fortunately, we're never meant to be individual enjoyers. Only with Krishna gives us unlimited pleasure. Right? And as I was saying, right, when we remove Krishna from our heart gets filled up with things like resentment. And why is that coming in there? Because when I see others enjoying and I'm not able to enjoy, I become hateful of others. So now my resentment in my heart is being directed towards others. Okay. And then this resentment can be directed towards myself also. I can become depressed, I can become, low self-esteem. And then last but not the least, we can even project this resentment towards Krishna also. So that resentment, that heart that was empty because we pulled Krishna out of it, has been filled with nonsense. And now that has become a wall between us and Krishna. Right? We are not able to take help from Krishna because of our resentment and the other things that are in our heart. Right? And but then when we come to bhakti, all that help comes from the faith and knowledge that we are investing. We might not immediately understand how Krishna is helping us, but we will eventually understand that Krishna is my well-wisher. He's my Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. He's my Suhridam. Then the resentment goes away. Right? We try our best, and then our resentment goes away. Another thing, so yes, so I think I covered that aspect. Okay, the goals. Yes. So this is the way to understand this verse. Okay, I'll finish here. I won't start the next chapter today. So I'm just wondering if anybody has any thoughts. Let's see what Prabhupada has to say in this purport. Let's read this. The Lord is the master of material nature, and the conditioned souls are under the stringent rules of material nature. Unless one understands those bare facts, it is not possible to achieve peace in the world either individually or collectively. So we have to establish this fact that Krishna is the supreme controller. Okay. And that has to be established in my heart. Then only peace will come in. And as Prabhupada brilliantly, he gives a, so you notice in Prabhupada's purport, he's giving us this, how you should present. He starts by giving us a summary of the chapter in the beginning of the 5th chapter. He talks about the whole chapter. And towards the end, again, he again gives us what this chapter is about. So that's he's just solidifying the knowledge and what he's presenting in our mind by repeating it again. So Prabhupada is giving is a practical explanation of Krishna consciousness. Important statement. Everything depends on one's practical performance of duties in Krishna consciousness, which helps one control the senses in every respect and conquer the influence of desire and anger. So it depends on my performance. As we read in the Nectar of Instruction preface, advancement in the process of bhakti is dependent on the practitioner. As we were discussing, people are born in environments that are perfectly conducive for their spiritual growth, but still they're not able to take up. The Eightfold Yoga mysticism is automatically practiced in Krishna consciousness because the ultimate purpose is served. Thus ends the Bhakti-vedanta purport to the 5th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, any thoughts, anything we want to bring up? I won't start the 6th chapter today.
Haribol.
Haribol, Prabhu.
Hey, what is the, you said ACT? What does that
ACT?
mean?
So ACT, that's the way we tolerate, right? So there were 3 aspects in tolerating. Okay. Clarify. What is this? I'm just
Analyze.
Clarify and
please
transcend.
translate it. And yeah. So those 3 of them.
What are they?
Adjust.
Analyze?
No. Adjust, clarify,
Adjust.
and transcend.
Adjust.
Yeah.
Clarify.
And transcend.
Nice.
And as I gave the example of Pandavas were a perfect example of that. They tolerated initially. They just adjusted to the scenario. Bhima was poisoned. There were many things done to them. They just adjusted because they thought these are not important for us. Let's not worry ourselves about it. But then when their wife was humiliated, they had to clarify that situation. Initially, they went in peace, clarified. If they didn't, if Pandavas didn't, Duryodhana and his brothers didn't listen to him, they did a war. And then lastly, when they heard that Krishna has left the planet, they transcended. They said, okay, this is beyond. We're going to just leave everything and move away. So they walked. So they, in one sense, they walked away from the situation, but then walking away doesn't necessarily mean to run away. It's all true to, let our intelligence decide what to do. So when Pandavas just left everything, when Krishna left this planet, they were not necessarily walking away from the situation. They were using their intelligence and decided what to do. So that was also a way of tolerance. So they exhibit tolerance in different ways. Okay. Any
So
more
will
things?
you please explain again Krishna as the benefactor?
So benefactor, the word used there is Suhridam, right? So Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. So he's trying to bring me to him in whatever way possible. He's giving me everything. So if you notice, he comes as Chaitya Guru. So when we say Chaitya Guru, means Paramatma sitting in my heart. He comes as scriptures. Okay, he comes as scriptures, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. He comes as devotees. He comes as a guru, a physical guru in our life. So Krishna is trying his best to attract us back to himself.
Yes.
So unfortunately, because as I said, I have filled up my heart with so many other things that there is no more space for Krishna to fit in. And as I said, my heart has a hole which is of the shape of Krishna, and it can never be filled by anything else.
Yes.
So Krishna knows that, and he is trying to connect with me in every way possible. Every way possible. Can you just imagine sitting in my heart? He's coming as devotees, devotional service, acharyas, books, every way. He's kind of bombarding me, but I have shut my mind completely. That is why he is my best well-wisher, because he wants me to be happiest that I can be. But unfortunately, I don't want to take that message from him. So that's the challenge. But then there is another level to it that I think I touched upon it, that we don't even realize that he's my well-wisher. I'm actually trying to be his enemy, right?
Yes.
I'm trying to take up the position of a controller. We all are little controllers in ourselves, right? I want to enjoy separately from him, right? This whole world is an example of that. People want God's kingdom without God in it. I want to enjoy this world, enjoy nature, but I don't want God. Don't talk to me. So unfortunately, there is so much negativity in my heart towards Krishna that I can't even see Krishna as being as my well-wisher. Forget about receiving his knowledge. There is no receptivity at all. I'm not even able to acknowledge Krishna. It's hard. I'm waging a war against him.
Got it, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Yes. And we'll see this towards the end of the 6th chapter, the last verse of 6th chapter, as again Krishna will establish himself. Yogina Visharvesha Madgatina Antaratma. That the best yogi is the one who understands me as the supreme. That is why Prabhupada would always sign his letters, your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, because Prabhupada was fully in line with what Krishna wants. His actions sometimes would seem that they are not appropriate. But then he knew fully exactly what Krishna wanted. That is why Prabhupada was also our best well-wisher. Even though sometimes when people read, they might think that, oh, this is not appropriate. Why is Prabhupada saying that? But that is all because of the negativity in my heart, because of all the knots in my heart, K-N-O-T, knots in my heart, which don't even let me acknowledge Krishna and his messengers. Let Krishna be in charge. Let him handle. And then we will eventually know everything, peacefulness and everything.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have a question about the peace formula.
Yes, Prabhu, please.
Okay, so in the purport, it says the greatest peace formula is simply this: Lord Krishna is the beneficiary in all human activities. Men should offer everything to the transcendental service of the Lord. So, so we see that, devotees perform transcendental service in a variety of ways, from offering prasadam to doing a book distribution, to do a DT service, and then that's all ways of different offerings. It's a transcendental service offering. Yet in reality, we see that the devotees are still subject to the pangs of material nature, and so so it's questionable, is there are they always at peace or not? And so that's why I was bringing up this point to see what your thoughts about that are.
Yes, so when we do all these activities, yes, we are still in misery. We're not refuting to that. However, once we come to bhakti, a devotee doesn't see those as miseries. The devotee sees those happenings, those situations as Krishna's mercy for our purification. Because even though I have come to bhakti, there is still some purification needed, right? Prabhupada gives the example of a mango. Once you come to bhakti, you are a mango now, okay? But then you could be a raw mango or a ripe mango, right? A green mango or a yellow mango. Yellow is the ripe one. But then still you are a mango. Okay? So you're still a devotee. You're still on the right path. But then the raw mango, which is still green, has to go through some stress, heat or whatever it takes for that green mango to come to the state of a yellow mango, to be completely ripe. But then that doesn't mean that he's not a mango. And devotees, as I said, they see that process of purification as something being sent by Krishna, right? Because in bhakti we are told that once we come to bhakti, then all our reactions are nullified, right? When we take our initiation, our guru takes away all our karma, as we are told. And whatever I'm suffering beyond that is primarily just because Krishna wants to purify me properly. And because if I reach to Krishna half-baked, then eventually I'll fall down again. So that process is, even though it's misery, but it is not misery necessarily, it's more of Krishna's mercy coming for our purification. Krishna giving it us in form of purification. Like once Prabhupada, one of his disciples, he cut his finger while cutting vegetables. And he came running, he said, Prabhupada, why did my finger cut when I was doing it for Krishna's service? Prabhupada said, you were supposed to probably have suffered something even more serious than this. Probably you could have died or you would have cut your whole finger off if it's just a minor cut. So Krishna is giving it to you. It's Krishna's mercy coming. It's not your karma that you are suffering. So even though we devotees seem to be suffering, but it's not necessarily suffering. I think that was one part of your question, right? That the misery that we are suffering. What was the other part? Sorry, I forgot.
No, I was just questioning why they're still subject to the pangs of material nature, but I think you've answered that.
Yeah.
So
So we are not suffering the pangs of material nature. We are just being purified. For example, if you have an item of gold, it's also gold. It might not be that purest form of gold, the 24 karat gold, but still I'm gold. But I might need to be heated up, melted, all the impurities removed to go to that level of 24 karat gold. But then nobody would say that, that I was not gold in the beginning. I have become gold after that. No, it's just the way the person who's preparing that pure gold, he's just putting me through to make me pure. I'm already gold. So similarly, we all are, whatever we are doing is transcendental. But we don't feel it, we still see as suffering is because it's Krishna's way of purifying me, kind of just, nudging me here and there, and so that I can come to the perfect stage. And that will eventually happen. Yeah.
Okay. But what this purificatory process that you mentioned, I see that it can sometimes inhibit someone's progress in devotional service, because if there are obstacles, they may not be able to perform their devotional service to full capacity, and it could be actually a slower process because the jiva is inhibited due to this process that you're speaking about.
Yeah, it can prove. You're right. It can do that. That is why we talked about the process of tolerating. See, all bhakti yoga is it's only meant for very intelligent people. It's not for somebody who's not that intelligent, or not average people. That is why we should be able to discriminate based on our knowledge, what to tolerate, what not to tolerate, how to observe everything. I mentioned, if I keep asking the question, why is this happening to me? That's not an intelligent question to ask. So yes, it can slow down the process for those who don't have the right mindset. But for people who have the right mindset, they can grow. Recently, His Holiness Kadambakananda Swami Maharaj, he left his body. And if you read what he was posting towards the end of his days, it was all about bhakti. He was saying, forget everything, just do bhakti. So he's come to that level of purity. He's come to that state of purity through going through that all path, and he's suffering. He's also suffering, right? Can you just imagine a pure devotee like him is suffering, but he's not taking it as suffering. So our attitude also plays a very important role in how fast or slow we move on this path of bhakti. Are we able to discriminate between what is to be tolerated, what is not to be tolerated, what is to be questioned, not questioned, what is to be invested? Should I invest my time here? That is why when we read the Nectar of Instruction, all those, right? Apatyahara, Prayasascha, Prajalpo, Niyamagra, all that is what slows down our process of bhakti. But that the whole onus is on me. I'm responsible for accepting those or rejecting those. Yes,
Okay, thank you very much, Prabhuji.
it's a huge responsibility on us. Okay. Nothing else? We'll wrap up. Thank you very much. Next week we'll start chapter 6. Hare Krishna.